Welcome to the entire plot of the Tandem Read from Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas, part 14. And today we are going to be specifically reading Tower of Dawn chapters 39 through 43, as well as Empire of Storms chapters 53 through 56, although not particularly in that order. Now, we ended things off very exciting in regards to Chaol and Yrene, so let's jump back to their POV. This is Tower of Dawn chapter 39, and it's Chaol's point of view as he is walking for the first time since his injury towards Yrene. He only makes it a couple steps to a chair, which he is holding onto just to stay standing, and profusely apologizing to Yrene, because in case you don't remember, he said some pretty atrocious things out of anger. And basically he's telling her like he didn't mean any of it, and he doesn't know what came over him, and he's so sorry, please don't go. And then Yrene breaks out with a smile. So Yrene knew that Chaol was in a mood, and she knew that he was in a horrible place. Remember, she had this moment where she thought that she didn't want Nesrin to mess up his progress. She knew that he would get up for her. So there's also this moment where like Yrene knows that Chaol likes her, and she, instead of like having a conversation with him about it, I guess decided to use that as a way to help him with his healing. So she knew that if she walked away and got him to say something bad enough that would justify her walking out on him forever, that he would try to get up and he would shift his mindset and all that stuff. So it worked. And she was like, of course, I know you didn't mean any of it. I knew that you were really mad, and I knew I could get you to say something horrible if I baited you badly enough. To which Chaol's response is to continue to walk to the other side of the room, meet her on the other side, and kiss her. Eventually, after a good bit of time, Yrene helps Chaol into a chair, and she says that they still need to keep it professional because they still have a lot of healing to do, and she wants to heal him completely. So they then continue with the healing process. However, while they're making that transition from the wall to the chair, Kaja walks into the room. Now remember, Kaja is Chaol's servant, and we know that she's a spy for someone because all of the servants in the castle are a spy for one of the potential heirs. It's just a matter of which one. And Yrene has this moment where she's like, I think Kaja saw more than we wanted her to, and she's wondering who Kaja reports to, because this person is going to know that Chaol and Yrene are officially an item, and she's wondering what they're going to do with that information when they do find it out. Chapter 40, this actually is a whole nother week. Chaol and Yrene are going to keep healing, and Chaol can now walk successfully with the help of a cane. So this is the best and most progress we have seen from Chaol, and it's overall just really an exciting time. Also, we learn that Chaol and Yrene have stolen a couple kisses here and there throughout the week, so this wasn't a one-time thing. Like, they are definitely a couple now. One day, however, Yrene tells Chaol that she has manipulated Hussar into taking them to the Aksara Oasis. Remember, this is where Nusha said that the word mark scrolls that they found that had information about the Valg, they were found in a cave in the Aksara Oasis. So they've been trying to find a way to get there. Basically, Yrene's birthday is in 3 days, and she, in some very roundabout, schemy way, convinced Hussar to throw her a party at the family private oasis. Chaol didn't even know her birthday was coming up, so he asks her what she wants for her 22nd birthday, and she just says that she has everything she needs. Aww. Empire of Storms chapter 53, this is Aelin and her crew's POV because they have been searching through the stone marshes for 2 full days now. It's the end of the day when Rowan says that they should set up camp, but however, he does think they only have 1 more day's journey ahead of them because he actually can sense a sort of magic that is unfamiliar to him, so he's assuming it is the lock. So they make camp, and as they're eating their meal, Mana notices the eye of Elena around Aelin's neck. She asks Aelin about it, to which she says it's called the Eye of Elena, and it was a gift. Now this next part is wild. It says Manon dipped her fingers into the muddy earth to sketch a shape, a large circle and 2 overlapping circles, one on top of the other within that circumference. That is the 3-faced goddess, Manus said, her voice low. We call this, she drew a rough line in the centermost circle, in the eye-shaped space where they overlapped, The eye of the goddess, not Elena. Crone, mother, maiden. This is an iron teeth symbol. Blue blood prophets have it tattooed over their hearts, and those who won valor in battle. When we lived in the wastes, they were once given to those to mark our glory, being God's blessed. Basically, we just learned that the eye of Elena is not actually particular to Elena. The eye of Elena is actually a witch symbol, specifically an iron teeth witch symbol. Lysandra then asks about the curse that is on the wastes and the iron teeth witches. And we've talked about this briefly here and there, but this is where we actually get like a thorough explanation as to what that curse is. Rhiannon and Crochan held the gates to her city for 3 days and 3 nights against the 3 iron teeth matrons. Her sisters were dead around her children slaughtered, her consort spiked to one of the iron teeth war caravans. The last Crochan queen, the final hope of the 1,000-year dynasty. She did not go gently. It was only when she fell at dawn on the 4th day that the city was truly lost, and as she lay dying on the killing field, as the iron teeth ripped down the walls of the city around her and her butchered people, she cursed us, cursed the 3 matrons, and through them all iron teeth. Rhiannon swore on her last breath that we would win the war but not the land, that for what we had done we would inherit the land only to see it wild and die in our hands. Our beasts would shrivel and kneel over dead, our witchlings would be stillborn, poisoned by streams and rivers. Fish would rot in the lakes before we would catch them, rabbits and deer would flee across the mountains, and the once verdant witch kingdom would become a wasteland. The iron teeth laughed at it until the first iron teeth witchling was born dead, then another, and another, until the cattle rotted in the fields and the crops withered overnight. By the end of the month, there was no food. By the second, the 3 iron teeth clans were turning on one another, ripping themselves to pieces. So the matrons ordered us all into exile, separated the clans to cross the mountains and wander as we would. Every few decades, they would send groups to try and ward the land to see if the curse still held. These groups never returned. We've been wanderers for 500 years. The wound made worse by the fact that humans eventually took it for themselves, and the land responded to them. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, we already know the humans who are actively living in the wastes, or the western wastes specifically, and that is Ansel of Briarcliff's people. Remember in Assassin's Blade, we met Ansel Briarcliff. She was a friend of Aelin's, and Aelin actually ended up saving her life at the end, despite the fact that Ansel did not deserve it. So Manon and her people have had to sit by and watch as Ansel Briarcliff's family took over their homeland. Dorian asks about how the curse can be broken, and Manon says, blood to blood and soul to soul, together this was done, and only together can it be undone. Be the bridge, be the light. When iron melts, when flowers spring from the fields of blood, let the land be witness and return home. Basically, every iron teeth in the world has pondered this curse for 500 centuries, and they have not yet found a way to break it. Later that night, Rowan, Gavriel, and Fenris are keeping watch, and Gavriel and Fenris both tell Rowan that they think that he needs to actually grab Aelin and leave, like ditch this effort, leave. Rowan is very confused about why Fenris and Gavriel would be encouraging them to do this when they said, think about it, 2 females whose paths crossed tonight in a way we've rarely witnessed, 2 queens who might control either half of this continent, 2 sides of one coin, both half-breeds. Manon an iron teeth and a Crochan, Aelin a human and a fae. Between them they cover the 3 main races of this earth. Between the 2 of them they are mortal and immortal. One worships fire and the other darkness. Do I need to go on? It feels as if we're playing right into the hands of whoever has been running this game for eons. You could argue it is superstitious, but if we've learned anything from reading Throne of Glass and how Sarah J. Maas builds up her plot lines, I think it's fair to say that Gavriel and Fenris kind of have a point. Gavriel goes on to suggest that Maeve has been waiting for someone like Aelin, and if that they were to meet on a battlefield, it could be catastrophic. Then Fenris breaks the news to Rowan that he has been replaced in the cadre by none other than Cairn. So think of the intensity of Lorcan, but imagine the most disturbing, intense, bloodthirsty version of him. He's literally described as been born savoring the suffering of others. Okay, that is Cairn for you. Even Lorcan couldn't stomach being his general during one of the ancient wars. So Cairn is a lot. And now he is serving as a right hand to Maeve. And remember Cairn, because we may or may not Hear that name again. Fenris then says he believes that Maeve is waiting for Parrington to make Aelin as weak as humanly possible with this war and then swing in and take Aelin for herself. Rowan does not like the sound of this. That would have some major, huge implications that they do not like. When Fenris then speaks up, even though he thinks Maeve is doing it as a form of torture, he is appreciating the loophole that was in this blood oath because he is enjoying actually serving someone that's trying to make the world a better place. And he's actually feeling very fulfilled by helping Aelin and her court. Tower of Dawn, chapter 41. This is in Nesrin and Sartok and Falcon's POV as they are preparing to go to the Dagu Fells. This is the heart of the Karankui's territory. We are going to fly directly into the heart of the Fells, okay? So, things we're talking about on the flight there. Mind you, Falcon is a mouse in Nesrin's pocket. So although he is there, this really is a private conversation between Nesrin and Sartok. So some main points of what they discuss. Basically, Sartok says he would give up his crown if it meant he wouldn't be a warrior anymore. Basically saying he would rather be a warrior than be the Kagan. Also, he knows he is favored by the people as a potential heir, but he's never received any indication specifically from his father about who he would actually pick. And he actually has his bets on Duva, his sister, because she's currently pregnant with an heir, and she's the only one of the heirs at this point who actually successfully will have their own heir. He knows his chances would be improved if he was married and also had an heir, and he has courted ladies in the past from the court. However, he's not found one that he actually wants to marry, and a large part of it has actually been their reactions to Kadara and his lifestyle as a warrior. Completely aside from all of that, they do talk about Bort and Uran and how they're betrothed yet hate each other, and he basically just says that they've competed against each other at basically, it's like a Rock Riders tournament, like their own version of the Olympics that they do every single year, and Bort and Uran are always like the top two people every year going head to head. And after the third year in a row of Bort winning, the prize that she won that was announced to everyone was her engagement to Uran. And it is yet to be known because obviously Bort had a very outrageous reaction to this announcement. And even Sartok himself doesn't really know if Bort was mad because their engagement was supposed to be a secret and that was it going public for the first time without her knowledge, or if that was just like a betrothal made against her will. No one really knows. She doesn't really talk about it. All we know is that they're rivals. They can't stand each other, and for whatever reason, they have to marry each other eventually, one day. Anyway, so we finally get to the Dagu Fells, and imagine like a very spooky, dark area of the mountains. Not dark because it's dark outside, dark because it's just like deprived of life, if you will. They struggle to find a spot to land because the place is literally covered in spider webs, which, ew, like I just get shivers up my spine just thinking about that. And they are trying to make a more sneaky approach. Like they don't really want to come in swords swinging, bows and arrows flying. They want to try to be as inconspicuous as possible. While they're circling to find a place to land, they actually see a hatchling crying in a nest. So Kadar goes straight for it, and they basically decide in this moment that this is a rescue mission to get the hatchling and leave. However, when they are diving for the hatchling, they get caught up in a very large Karankui web. Tower of Dawn, chapter 42. Basically, this hatchling was a trap. The Karankui did this intentionally to trap anyone coming to get the hatchlings. Sartok is scratched up pretty badly because he took the brunt of the fall. When Kadara got wrapped up in the web, him and Nesrin went flying, and he like kind of put his body between Nesrin and the ground. So she's fine. Sartok, however, is bleeding pretty badly. They then rush to Kadara, who is now completely wrapped up in the spider silk that she flew into, and they cut her out of it in time for the first Karankui to approach. The Karankui kills the hatchling in this moment, which is honestly really disturbing and very dark and very hard to read. And then it immediately guns for Nesrin and Sartok and Kadara. At this point, they have gotten her out of the spider silk and they hop on her back to hopefully fly away and get out of there because, you know, stuff went pretty south really fast. However, Kadara got so hurt when she got caught up in the spider silk that she can barely fly with no weight on her. So Nesrin and Sartok have to hop off, and they basically let Kadara go, and they hope that they can meet up with her somewhere else. And then Nesrin and Sartok make a run for it even deeper into the heart of the Dagu fells. Empire of Storms chapter 54, this is going to be in Manon's POV during the last stretch of their journey to look for the lock. She talks with Dorian for most of the walk just to pass the time, and she asks them about the keys, specifically if when Aelin gets all three and the lock, and she banishes the Valg, will she also be banishing all the Iron Teeth witches? I'll remind you that Iron Teeth witches are half Fae, half Valg. And Dorian just says that that's not really Aelin's style and tells her that she shouldn't worry about it. But Manon then brings up a really great point. Why does it have to be Aelin? Like, mind you, I think Aelin is the best person for the job. I don't think anyone's really questioning that. But she asked Dorian, like, you have raw power and you're also extremely powerful. Why don't you take the keys in the lock, and why don't you be in charge of who gets banished or not? But Dorian just says that because he killed his own father, shattered his own castle, and hurt his own court, he's afraid that if he had that kind of dark power again and that much like Valg power in his hands, that he might make a lot of the same mistakes again. But specifically for the sake of avenging Sorsha. So he doesn't think that he actually would have the best intentions, and he doesn't trust that he wouldn't use the keys in a corrupt way. And Manon now understands in this moment why Dorian is attracted to her, because when he talks about Sorsha and how she was a healer and how perfect and innocent and sweet she was, she's like, oh, okay, I'm filling a hole in your heart right now, but you don't want to feel like you're replacing this girl, so you're going for me because I'm the polar opposite of her. She doesn't really take this like offensively, like she's not annoyed or frustrated. She's just kind of like, okay, this makes a lot more sense now. Now let's jump to Rowan's POV. They're almost to the lock, and he is mostly just disturbed by the fact that it is so quiet right now. And also the fact that they're so close to where the lock is, it just feels too easy. I mean, there's definitely some like little beasts and creatures all around the stone marshes, but for the most part, they're keeping to themselves. At the camp the other night, one of them tried to attack Manon. It wasn't really that big of a deal, which is why I didn't really address it. But there's these little creatures here and there, but they haven't really bothered them. They make it all the way to Rolf's coordinates to some ruins, and still nothing has happened. And Rowan he's like, this feels too easy. This doesn't feel right. However, when they get there, they find an altar in the ruins with a chest on top of it. And you'll never guess what's on this chest. Truly, you'll never guess. Word marks. They're everywhere. However, Aelin actually cannot decipher a lot of these word marks. So she's taking a close look, trying to figure out if this chest is even safe to touch. Like, she doesn't know if it's cursed or something. And then they start feeling a dark, pulsating magic in the air. They're all confused, but Rowan recognizes that, and he would recognize it anywhere. That is Lorcan's warning beacon. Rowan immediately runs out of the ruins and looks to the sky, where he sees a legion of Ilken approaching them. 500 Ilken, to be exact. Empire of Storms chapter 55. This is in Lorcan's POV. He could feel Rowan and Aelin near him, so he immediately sends out his warning beacon in hopes that Rowan will get it and look to the skies and see all 500 Ilken coming in this direction. Let's jump to Aelin's POV now, because she has a lot on her mind. First, she's gonna have to leave the lock where it is because, you know, there's some more important things going on right now. Second, Lorcan is here in the stone marshes, apparently. Third, what in the world is going to happen when Fenris and Gavriel find Lorcan? Fourth, what's Lorcan going to do to her when he finds her? And fifth, and finally, and most importantly in this moment, there are 500 Ilken coming at her, and she has minutes to come up with a plan. Aelin wants to use the word key again just to get rid of all of them, but obviously Rowan shuts this down instantly after what happens at Skull's Bay. He's like, absolutely not. That's not an option. Rowan suggests that they all fight in like combat style, and then Adian speaks up, and he feels like this is a great time to tell Aelin that this is her fault because she just had to flex her power at Skull's Bay. He says, where are our allies, Aelin? Where are our armies? All we have to show for our efforts is a pirate lord who might very well change his mind if he hears about this from the wrong lips. Aelin's only response, and this is internal, not to Adian directly, is that she just needs more time. It's like the fourth time, maybe fifth time now that Aelin's had this thought. Aelin needs more time. Time for what? Time to do what? We have a couple ideas maybe, but what exactly is on Aylin's mind, we're not quite sure. Aylin then nods to Rowan and Adian, basically saying, you know what, I'm going to give you guys full reign to plan out this battle. Then she turns to Lysandra. They have a conversation that the best thing that she can do for them in this moment is shift into some like sort of beast creature, and she's going to stir up all of these stone marsh creatures so that if the Ilken ever land on the ground, they will have more to combat than just Aylin and her court. Manon then has a very interesting moment with Dorian where she agrees to kill Dorian before he can be taken if it gets to that point. Because it's safe to assume, if you think about it, that this is a court full of insanely powerful people. The way that Erewhon would much prefer to have any or all of them in a collar fighting on his side of this war to help him like conquer the world, more so than just having them dead and out of the picture. He would love to have these people's power under his control. For goodness sakes, that's why he put a vowed collar on Dorian in the first place. Aylin, however, does not like this detail in the slightest, but Dorian is grateful to Manon for the assurance, and Aylin decides that she will deal with this at another time. Rowan and Adian do agree that the best course of action is to let Aylin, without help of the word key, use her fire magic first, to then be supported by Rowan and Dorian shooting their magic at anyone who survives Aylin's fire, and then everyone else is going to be fighting on the ground with swords and other form of combat. So Aylin starts diving deep into her well of magic as low as she can in the 1 minute that she has, and then she unleashes her wildfire on the 500 Ilken. Empire of Storms chapter 56, Lorcan's POV is he's giving a lead Anthral's ring and makes her promise to never take it off. Now remember, this is the ring that was we were talking about it a lot in Queen of Shadows. Aylin finds it in Heir of Fire, but it's a ring that protects you from any sort of Valg influence. So he's giving it to a lead in this moment before the Ilken can get there in order to make sure that she's protected. And then they make a run for it. They actually, in the distance, okay? So think of it like this. The Ilken are here. Aylin and her court are here. Elide and Lorcan are far, far back here. And they're coming up on this scene. So they're getting the side view, okay, of this whole battle. So they can see Aylin and her court from a distance, and Lorcan realizes that everyone is standing very, very, very far back from Aylin right now, and it is because she is about to unleash her wildfire. And that means that Elide and Lorcan might not necessarily be in the safest place right now, because they're kind of off to the side, but they don't know what Aylin's fire is about to do. So yeah, they're about to get their bones melted, basically. In that moment, Aylin unleashes her magic to an extent that surprises and impresses even Lorcan, and because they don't have any time to move whatsoever, Lorcan throws up one of his shields and protects him and Elide, and they watch this battle begin. Now let's jump to Adian's POV, because in this moment, he finally understands what nameless is my price means. And that's all I'm gonna say. That's all Adian says. That's all Sarah Maas says in this moment. But Adian in this moment has solved the riddle of what nameless is my price means. Based off the context clues, see if you can figure it out. We're gonna jump back to Lorcan's POV as he's watching in disbelief as Aylin is burning all of the Ilken. And then he's watching Dorian's powers in full effect, as well as Rowan's right next to her, and then seeing Fenris, Gavriel, and Adian fighting with bows and arrows. And in a very short summary, because we don't really do play-by-plays and action scenes here, it's a very long battle. It's not a very easy battle, but Aylin and her court win it, without a doubt. They kill all 500 Ilken, and all of them are fine. Definitely drained of their magic, but they're all fine. Power called to power among the Fae. Perhaps Aylin was unlucky the cadre had been drawn to Maeve's power long before she was born. Perhaps they were the unlucky ones for not holding out for something better. Lorcan then shook his head to clear the useless, traitorous thoughts. So this is wild, especially coming from Lorcan. He's basically implying, what if the cadre could do more and be more under the power of Aylin rather than Maeve? In this moment, it occurs to Lorcan how drained Aylin, Rowan, and Dorian are, and he realizes now is probably the best time for him and Elide to go say hello. Tower of Dawn, chapter 43. This is in Kale's POV, as he and Yrene and the rest of the Cognate are on their way to the Aksara Oasis. Kale is given the rowdiest horse by the royals as kind of a joke. They want to see how well he can handle it, and of course it's very hard for him, but he is determined to not let them shake him, so he's a pretty good sport about it. After a long day of riding, they finally get to this beautiful desert, and Kale challenges Yrene to a race, and the winner gets a kiss. So they race off into this beautiful desert, and it says Kale felt, perhaps for the first time, as if he was awake, and he was grateful right down to his very bones for it. Yeah, not much happens in that chapter. That's literally it, but it's just a really precious moment that I love. So Nesrin, Sartok, and Philique are stuck in the heart of the Karankui's home. Aelin and Elide are about to meet for the first time since the invasion 10 years ago of Terrasen. Lorcan is about to face Fenris and Gavriel. Aelin and Rowan are about to face Lorcan. Kael and Yrene have begun their journey to find more scrolls to see what they can about the Vowed Kings right under the royals' noses. And you know what? What could possibly go wrong? We will, however, have to wait till part 15 to really delve deeper into all of these plot lines. Sorry for the shorter episode, but we just have so much to cover for part 15, and I really just wanted to lump it all together. So I will see you very, very soon for part 15. If you are not caught up already, you need to check out this playlist to get caught up on every single episode. And also, you should definitely subscribe so you get notified whenever I post a brand new entire plot episode.